It's Wednesday. Grab your goat, grab a drink, grab some popcorn because it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yay! I keep waiting for my live studio audience. I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. We have the beautiful Heather Greene. We have the handsome Richard-Lael Lillard. We have the beautiful and a little bit sniffly Courtney Buckley. We have Jason Mankey in the others and the ethers and the other worlds, and we were hoping he is going to show up. He did a fine job of being me last week, Patti Negri, when I was down way under. I'm going to let everybody introduce ourselves first and save it. So again, I'm Patti Negri. You probably know me from the Witches Movie Coven is here. From, hi, what is the name of my show again?
The Witching Hour with Patti Negri.
Or my many, many appearances on Ghost Adventures or working with the Ghost Finders. Or my penchant for goats and Barbies. Who are you, Heather Greene?
I have a penchant for dolls, similar to you. But besides that, I am an author. I wrote Lights, Camera, Witchcraft about movies and with witches in American cinema. There's the cover. Thank you, Courtney. And I am also an acquisitions editor at Llewellyn and a journalist that covers witchcraft and occult topics in the mainstream media. So I do a lot of things, all these things.
Richard-Lael.
Hello, I am Richard-Lael. I do a lot of things. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be. Anyway, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I'm here in New Orleans. I am working on a few things that are hush-hush. Also, I just did the foreword for Magic at the Crossroads through Llewellyn Publishing. Thank you, Heather Greene.
Jason is psychically telling us that he is in the waiting room, but we haven't seen him yet. We are all very psychic, and we got the message. Courtney, how are you?
That's me. I'm not great. I am sick, so I don't know how long I'll last here, but you guys may know me as Ghostbait on Scared and Alone. You may see me around Salem doing tours, or, just Disney, because I can't get enough. That's where I was last weekend.
Yay, congrats. All right, and he's here. Jason, just introduce yourself.
I've somehow psychically beamed into the show. I'm wearing this hat for Heather Greene because I know how much she loves Yule things before Thanksgiving. I write witchcraft books. And like Courtney, I'm also sick. So, woo!
Woo! All right, so you got a sick coven tonight. Thank God germs do not go through, or gods, or goddess says that germs do not go through computers. Oh, and we were talking about where we're going. Anybody in the Dallas area, I will be there all weekend doing workshops, seances, private sessions. If you go to Miracles of Joy in Louisville, I'd love to see you. It's a real nice, intimate thing I do twice a year. So join us there. And then I'm going to come home and sleep. So anyway, we are doing the movie She Will today. And before we go there, since we don't know how long Courtney's going to last, Courtney, do you want to give us your movie quote before we go into Richard-Lael's explanation and Heather's explanation?
Let me pull it up here. I feel like I only have one, and I feel like it sums up the movie perfectly, so that with no spoilers and no explanation, you can hear the quote from the movie and know exactly what you're getting yourself into. So the quote was, "Charming, scout camp with a touch of Guantanamo."
Best quote in the movie.
That was a good quote.
All right, so Richard-Lael, do you want to explain this movie to us in your
I would be
way?
absolutely delighted. So here's the story about a lady who was raising up three very lovely girls.
No, that's wrong movie.
No, you're right. So the story is about Norma Desmond, who leaves her Sunset Boulevard mansion for Scotland, where she meets the neighbors from Rosemary's Baby. And of course, they're only three-dimensional characters, but they're like throwaway characters. You get really invested, and Rupert Everett's character is really sort of camp, like almost too camp. But anyway, she goes to Scotland to recover from her surgery. And while there, she realizes that, they were supposed to have, I was supposed to have a private recovery, but she goes to this place. Everyone knows her automatically. And so she tries to get away, but the person who works there, but you never know who she is because she's sort of, again, a throwaway character. And they try to pack so much in this film. Anyway, so she says, go for the night and maybe tell Courtney Buckley you will feel better. And so she has no choice because there's no cell phones in 1950 when the film was made. And anyway, there's no cell phone. So she realizes that it is a little bit of Courtney's quote, something about Guantanamo Bay, and I can't remember what the other thing was. But she ends up by realizing scout camp with Guantanamo Bay. They realize that Rupert Everett's character is an artist, and he says that the clay in the earth has this sort of magical qualities because of all of the witches who were burned in Salem, Massachusetts. Thank you, Courtney Buckley. All the witches who were burned.
I think I'm getting sick.
Like, what?
All these witches were burned in Scotland. So it goes into the ground, and this woman who has been warned by her nurse, her maid, to not wear prosthetics, she needs to recuperate from her surgery, has denied, and the blood seeps into the water, and then of course she starts having really strange dreams, and then visions of these tortured, burned women who were accused of witchcraft. And so she goes into a trance. She creates this amazing painting. The next thing you know is that she's basically confronted with a character that was the Me Too movement. And he is being knighted. He is about to be knighted. He dates way back to, all years and years ago. And he had apparently been inappropriate with this actress when she was 13. And as he's sitting there, she sort of gets transported into the studio with him. She's in Scotland. He is presumably not, but she gets transported psychically to him, and he sees her. And then all of the dirt starts coming through. And long story short, it's a story about retribution. It's a story about female empowerment, and what's coming to him. You think that she's going to die in the end, but she makes a special friend. The end. See?
Silence. And completely understand it. I
It's
thought
so
it was
accurate.
about aging women. Never mind. Heather,
You can continue. You go ahead and continue. What did you think it was about?
No. I mean, I just saw her. She was a famous actress, and
Norma Desmond.
having Norma Desmond, yes, and she had a mastectomy, again about her womanhood and the aging thing, and she opened up doing her makeup and talking about masks, and this particular mask was about preservation and going off. I mean, I loved her character and her character study on this, but I'll talk later. I had to watch this on my cell phone, and it's not the movie to watch on your cell phone.
No.
I thought it was a fever dream, if that helps. I'm that sick. I thought I made up the whole thing because just like Scout Camp and Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. It was confusing. I kept going, well, it's because I can't see anything, but I don't think that was why it was confusing for me.
It wasn't.
No worm? Is that? It's a leech. What leech? No, I don't know. Heather, what is the plot in this film that we are obviously getting all wrong?
So just a background. This movie is British. It's made in the UK, and also it was made after my book. So I don't have the background material because I didn't do the deep research and go to the archives on this film. It's written by a woman, or directed by a woman, as you might well guess. What's interesting about this film is if you boil it down, it goes down. The story itself, the actual essence of the narrative is a woman who has been assaulted and oppressed and assaulted, physically assaulted in this case, has turned to witchcraft to empower herself. That's essentially what you have if you boil it down. And that is a canned narrative in witchcraft films that increased over time most prominently after the 90s. You have a little bit of it in The Craft. You have a little bit of it in, you can even say maybe Witches of Eastwick if we're really generous to that movie. You see it in several other films, and then the 2000s more so. If you think about like the movie The Conjurer, not The Conjuring, The Conjurer, a lot of the paranormal witch films have the ghosts come back, and they were wronged, they were raped, they had a kid and the man left, whatever, and they come back to haunt the man and the culture that allowed them to be harmed. They turn to witchcraft for that, whether in death or before. Now we see it even more so after the 2010s. So you're seeing that in the TV show Salem opens up with that immediately. You see it in American Horror Story. We talked about that in several of the episodes, and more. Maleficent, another one. So we're seeing it more and more in this recent last 10 years and it is a reflection of the Me Too movement, and also this fourth wave feminism that we've seen over the past years. And it further ties witchcraft to women's power, which it's always been linked to, but this is again another way to do it. This is a way, and this pretty much is saying, well, women turn to witchcraft to connect with each other, to connect with the land. Another I don't want to say it like that. Another trope for the thing, women are connected to the wilds of the land, which you see here, and it's all connected, bringing them back, connecting them, and empowering them in a world that otherwise is out to oppress and to harm. So that's what you see in this film. And it's definitely a reflection of its time. There's a number of them, especially in this past 5 years, that are very much hitting home with this particular narrative. So that's the main thing I want to say. We have a great cast, a lot of really good actors, and a phenomenal soundtrack. If you just listen to it, one guy wrote it. It just, that's my opinion, of course, but it is a very strong soundtrack. This is not, well, I can talk about that later, but it's not what you expect a mainstream film to be. It is very much has the art house feel to it, and a very much an artistic style film, haunting. So it's a little different, but I'll talk about how I feel about it later on. Someone else can talk.
Let's answer Mary Jane's question. She had breast cancer. She had a message. We assumed it wasn't violent. The violence had been a long time ago. She's an older actress.
When she was 13.
Yep.
Yeah.
13 when that bad happened.
Presumably the director. And I think that you could argue that the mastectomy was also a violation, because it is, stripping you of something that's you connect to your identity as a woman. So not the same way, but yeah.
Well, there's one scene in there's just one little quick scene where it shows her like on a cover of a tabloid, and it says before and after the mastectomy. So especially for a female actress, they're always so sexualized, right? And then she's losing, she thinks she's losing that part of herself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There was also that scene that was really powerful that, it started with her wanting to wear the prosthetics and it was too soon. But then at the end, she was standing naked in front of the mirror, just herself, as she was coming into her power, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. I was just about to say that, Courtney, but I should also tell Lisa, no, it's not actually Norma Desmond, character of the Norma Desmond. She's not Norma Desmond on Sunset Boulevard in 1950. That was what I was alluding to. She's not Norma Desmond. I can't remember her name.
Veronica Gent.
Veronica Gent.
Yeah. But she's
Alice Krige.
Alice Krige.
Yeah.
And she is incomparable. Her acting skills are. She was the one who played the witch. Also, I have to say that she has been scaring me to death since I was 2. And I have a funny story about her, and that is the 1982 televised version Ghost Story. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm not going to go into a long detail, but she's this woman who is in the summer place, like she's just staying there for a little while, and she runs into all of these old stars from the, you know, they're the 80s, but they're in their 80s in the 80s. But when they were when they were kids, they ended up by killing this woman accidentally, and then she comes back and haunts them. And I was so terrified. I was 2 years old. I was 2, and I saw this ghost story. But I don't want to. I don't want to die. I don't want to be buried. I don't want to be buried. And my mother said, "Don't worry, honey. If you die now, they kill you first. They take out all your blood." So. So yes, this woman has been scaring me since I was 2 years old, way back in 1982.
Wow.
She was also the lady in the movie we watched, Gretel and Hansel.
And
Yeah.
she's the board queen. She's the board queen in Star Trek, which if you've ever watched the first true Next Generation movie, she's unsettling in that because she's a creepy board queen, and yet she's still like smoking hot as a creepy board queen. And it gave me a lot of problems when I was in my teenage years. A lot of problems. Probably not over them yet.
And this one woman, how much she's affected everybody, you know. Yeah.
There's Norma Desmond. Let's just be clear. That's Sunset Boulevard. That is a totally different movie and different actress. That's not the same thing.
That's so funny.
That's awesome.
In the beginning, she was so Sunset Boulevard. In the beginning,
She was. Absolutely. I think that, yes, I agree completely. I understood that reference immediately when you said it. I laughed. Like, yep, that's who she
and
was.
you have to admit too, the people at the retreat were so the neighbors in Rosemary's Baby.
Completely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except they weren't witches.
Well, they weren't witches, but they did witchy things. Like there was that one who was chant, like whatever that was.
The
They were
dancing.
New agers.
It felt like a battle between witches and New Agers, is what it
That's
felt
what
like,
I got.
right?
New
I'm with
Agers.
Patty. Yeah.
The New
Yeah.
Agers.
The old religion versus woo, something like that.
Yeah.
Woo-woo.
Mhm.
I'm going to agree with Robert there, who says that what our explanation may help a little, but it's still confusing.
Yeah.
And because it took me a while. And again, I'll gladly go first. Be fairly short. I did watch it at 1:32 in the morning last night on my cell phone because I didn't want to get up. And it's one of those dark, eerie, slow, beautiful scenery movies that you should never, ever, ever, ever watch on your cell phone because it's dark on a big screen. And I really was going, leeches? I couldn't figure it out. Why is there snails everywhere? But even in a tiny cell phone, the mud taking over was pretty cool. And it was peat, right? The peat. And I remember that when I was in Ireland last spring, one of our take-home gifts was a piece of 10,000-year-old peat, and they were saying how much stuff is in it. So that was pretty exciting to me, going, oh yeah, it is magic. I felt it. I saw it. It is peat. So that's what you do. You lay down, you sleep in the peat. The other thing that why I maybe didn't get all the stories of it is I literally just got back from Tasmania. I'm wearing green on green, forest green for this movie. I actually dressed for this movie, but I just got back day before yesterday from a forest, not like that, the Tasmanian version, and a little tiny cabin not near anybody. It was a 12-minute walk, which is a far walk to my personal private cabin. And I was scared the first half of the movie because I just did that. I am so thankful I did not watch that movie before I went to Tasmania. I would have had a completely different experience waiting for the peat to take over, the mud, the moss to take over. So I mean, even on my little screen, it was beautiful. I liked it. I probably should have watched it earlier in the day on a bigger screen to get a little bit more from it, but it's a lovely green. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. So, but again, it was not, I don't know. I wasn't expecting anything. I never do with our films, but it wasn't what I expected.
Okay, I have a grievance that I'd like to file immediately. So when I went, I'd never seen this. I'd never heard of it. And when I went to rent it on Amazon, it I don't know if you can see this, but it says horror comedy.
Comedy?
Yep, it says it right there. So I thought, okay, like maybe this is one of those movies that I love that's going to be so bad it's hilarious. And no, that's not what happened.
No.
So you thought this
Comedy.
was going to be like Your Highness, a horror comedy movie.
Yes, exactly, actually. And I feel like there was a lot of things that I did like about it. I think the forest was my favorite character because the scenery was really beautiful. And I really, really actually liked the idea of the history being in the ground, in the peat. And the scene where she paints with the mud or with the peat was like incredible, I thought. But that's about it. Like the rest of it, it's like, I feel like, you know, I've never taken psychedelic drugs and I feel like I have now, so I don't need to try it. Why there was snails fornicating is beyond me. Like it was so trippy and weird and like not in a way that made it enjoyable for me. And I got it. I understood it. My camera is like so out of focus now because I did that. Hold on. Oh, look at my little haunted mansion phone case. Okay, that's better. It was not like trippy in a good way for me. It was confusing. I understood the premise. I understood what was happening. Normally, I'm all for the woman empowerment thing, like that trope I love, but it was just like predictable. I feel like, and it shouldn't have been because it was so beautiful and so dark and so eerie that I feel like they could have gone someplace different with it. And they had a good concept, and then to me it fell flat. I don't know what I expected, but it certainly didn't meet any of my expectations.
I think that a lot of it felt rushed for me.
Yeah.
There were a lot of those kooky people, the New Agers who were at the camp Guantanamo. Absolutely loved them a little more. I feel like that they were just trying to pack so much into it that really it could have been a mini series, like one season of a mini series or something, because really, like Jason said, it is sort of the New Age and the old religions coming, like this sort of fight between the two. And the characters automatically they recognized this actress. They were all kooky and weird in their own right. Though I do think that Rupert Everett's character he was trying to be too funny in a space where I don't feel like he should have been so funny. Like I just felt like he was a little too camp.
Thank you. Character wise, I wanted to know more. Like the nurse, she was always there being the nurse, and then like the rape scene came out of. I mean, I get it, and the ground took her over, but it was a little confusing.
See, and I saw that scene coming from the minute she put the mushrooms in her mouth. Like it was just, you know what I mean? Like, and it's the beginning was so slow. In a good way, in a way that I thought, okay, I don't understand this yet, but it feels like it's going to be one of those ones where like the realization comes crashing down onto me and I'm going to be so excited about it because it was so beautiful and because it was so dark. And I feel like it got to a point where I think it was the painting scene. And then I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. Here we go. And then it didn't happen. It was like Richard-Lael said, it was so rushed at the end, especially at the end, that I feel like we missed out on so much.
And what was that? I'm sorry, we're not doing the whole share. Like she was painting, and then somebody goes, "We're done." What was that to show that they didn't really care about what they were doing, the art of the place? Because, like, okay, you're being artist now. We're done. It's 2:00. So that was Joel's
schedule.
I feel like I watched an entirely different movie from some of you. I feel like I'm usually like the least perceptive movie watcher in the world. There's my girl. And then I felt like I got this. I mean, there's the witches who were burned on that ground and they become a part of the ground. And because she is oppressed, the actress, the witches reach out from 200 years ago and they form a bond so that she can be empowered and she can get the revenge on the person who really stole a part of her life. I thought it was great. I love that idea of witches from hundreds of years ago embracing witches of today, or people who are going to be witches by the time the movie is over. And there's something in the movie about like they used to mine charcoal there in that ground. And that's important. And that's important because the charcoal then is the burning of the witches becomes a part of the land, like the charcoal that was already on the ground. They become indistinguishable from each other.
I love the term witch feathers.
Yeah.
I watched that movie too, Jason. It just wasn't very good.
I'm gonna have to agree with Jason on this one. And I watched a very powerful movie. There were instances where she uses visuals as symbolic representations that push the boundaries. Some of them could have been pulled back a little bit in some places, I think. But again, this moves more towards art house film than it does to mainstream. So you get a little bit more of that. And some of it works, some of it was a little pushed, but mostly I didn't think this was rushed at all, because I think the focus was the inner process of the actress and her relationship with her nurse, and that's all. And everybody else were just mirrors bouncing off of the process. I think the other guests were there just as decoration to represent the real world, more oppression, more superficiality, more people who don't really care about anything. They're just there. The one woman just dances the whole time, new agey, whatever we want to call her. The artist is just ridiculous. The several of the men make sexist comments. The women just don't seem to be together. I mean, it's just it's like reality sits there very close, looming. And then you have this gorgeous forest, which definitely is a character, and it's really about her process. So so it just moves through. And the one thing about this film that when I watched it the first time, Devin Hunter, if you don't know him, podcaster, author, he brought it up to me, and we talked about it on one of his podcasts, is that it reminds me of the work I did in feminist film theory and feminist studies. It really reflects something that's very different. And I don't want to gender things that don't mean to be gendered, but this movie is not told in a linear fashion. There is a linear, it's not told with words and dialogue in a typical linear fashion, this story. We do have a linear story. We have a little bit of one, of course, but this movie is told with sound and memory and feeling and imagery. And if you link that concept to what we know of witchcraft, again, I don't want to gender things, but in this case, I'm going to do it. Usually those kind of things, visual imagery and memory, we link to the elements of water, for example, which are typically in traditional witchcraft feminine. We also typically in feminist film theory will link linear storytelling to masculine. And we also think about linear storytelling being focused on dialogue and action driven. Of course, if you tie those to the witchcraft elements that we know, those are going to be fire and air. Okay. Those are going to be masculine elements. So this story is very much reflective of the feminine experience that she has as the actress. It is about, we are able to, the way they told the story linearly, we're able to actually experience what she's experienced. At least that's what that's what the director's going for. Maybe for some people, they don't get into it. You aren't able to dive into that, but that's what she's going for. And so that is what this film is. And that, in my mind, it was a beautiful experiment, and it was beautifully done. Did it hit the mark every time, every moment of the film? Probably not, but I was there. And by the end, when she's in the car and she's standing there with the dude across the thing in the black and white, what a gorgeous shot when he's lying on that ground with the blood. Gorgeous shot. When that's there, I'm like, you go, girl. She will. She will.
See, I don't think I mean, I appreciate everything that you like. It was beautiful, and there was a lot of really powerful moments in it. And I wonder if that's really what it is for me. Like, so as someone who experienced something similar at a similar age as the main character, the revenge was not good enough for me. And I wonder if that, or there wasn't enough time spent on that for me, thinking that that's where that's where we were going with it. So you see it taking its revenge almost on with the rape scene in the forest and whatever. And okay, now we know where this is going, and it wasn't big enough, and it wasn't revengey enough, I guess, for me. It was unsatisfying, that part. And I don't know if maybe that's what took me out of it, but it just didn't feel resolved. Like I wanted it to. I saw where it was supposed to, but I didn't feel that way.
And I think part of it also, if we were to tie this to the witch, I think the fact that she didn't die at the end and she sits there with her red on. Now she's wearing red, not white anymore. She's got that power color on, which is why I wear my red today. And she sits there now with this daughter who she adopts, essentially finally warms to her. She, at the very end, she is now living deliciously. She is now magical. She is now, and that's the ultimate revenge because she's free of him. So yeah, I mean, I get it, Courtney. Everybody has their own, they bring their own thing to a movie like this, especially one that's so dependent on personal reflection and personal artistic, interaction with the art part of this.
I have to say, I did actually, even though I thought it was slow in spaces, I did actually thoroughly enjoy it. Where I feel like that perhaps the punishment at the end for, I can never remember his name from Clockwork Orange.
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell.
Herman Desmond.
Yeah.
I feel like that even though it was not really, so he falls from a balcony and he ends up dead. It was beautiful, but I also feel there was slight revenge in the fact that now he will never be knighted. It's this one thing that he has been working on. He has, since that was his number one goal since 1967 when he hindered this 13-year-old girl. He was working on being knighted for all those years, and he is days from being remembered as Sir da 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 da. And then she shows up in spirit form as she's sort of all across she's across the I guess she's in Scotland, he might be in England, he might be in the United States, I don't know where he is, it doesn't really matter, but she sort of in spirit form shows up, and in his own deranged mind, he had been drinking, but in his own deranged mind, he sees her, and then he assaults her, and it's that last assault, even though she's not physically there, that it's that last assault that sort of snatches his prize, his precious from him.
She gets a bruise though. Even though she's not physically there, when she's in her bed and she's writhing around and all the witch feathers are everywhere, she has a bruise on her head where he hits her with the bottle, which I thought was really cool. Again, there was parts that I loved. I think that whole concept was so great. Maybe it's just I wanted to see her ruin his life a little bit more before she killed him. I don't know.
More torture.
I don't know. Yeah, like get down and dirty with it. She will. Like, go ahead.
Instead of being knighted, though, he's going to be remembered for throwing up on that television show.
Yeah,
like she changed his whole paradigm with what the witches allowed her to do.
And not only throwing up on the television show.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, maybe it's the ghost hunter in me, but I wanted, okay, you can take spirit form, haunt his, you-know-what, for a while. Make him think he's crazy. I'm sure she felt like she was crazy, having to deal with the memories and the demons of what he did to her. So make him suffer the way that she suffered. Like, that's the thing. He didn't suffer. She suffered. He didn't suffer.
But he did suffer, because not only did he throw up on that television show, the host of the show basically accused him of harming a little girl. And now it's common knowledge. So now he lives as this grapist. He's a grapist. And he he now has to, his all of his legacy has been erased. It's just like Harvey Weinstein now. No matter what Harvey may or may not have done, from now on, Harvey Weinstein will only be remembered as a rapist.
Yeah, but like make him live with that. Like that's what it's missing to me. Exactly. Alicia's comment right here. Make him think he's crazy and miss being knighted while being alive, then kill him.
I mean,
that was the unsatisfying part to me, and I think it just ripped me from it. I really do.
I think I want to address first of all, hi Aaron, said hi Heather, and one of the questions I'm confused. Who's it? Lisa said I'm confused. So one of the things one of the reasons everybody's so confused about this is what I was talking about earlier, is that it's not told clearly linearly. We keep getting we get her story in these chunks and pieces, and a lot of them are visual, so you have to put them together over time to figure out exactly what happens. Like, who is this? Why are they here? That piece, that sort of, it's put together almost like a memory or a dream, and we're kind of in that, and so it takes a while to get that, and that's why I think a lot of people are confused. But the basic story is there's a woman who is abused as a 13-year-old actress when she gets her stardom, and then lives with that. And this is where she, at the end of her life, or later in her life, I don't want to say at the end of her life, goes to this retreat and reconnects with witches through the land, through the forest, and gets revenge. I mean, that's sort of what you're looking at, but there's so much more to it. But it's not told in a very clear format. It's told almost like dreams in parts, and we have to figure it out. That's why everyone is so confused, I think. But I think it was you, Jason, that said it, that connection, the connection to the forest and to the wild, and I have a whole section in my book about this, is something that's very much a part of the witch's legacy. I mean, dating back hundreds of years. In a lot of cases, the wild is seen as the place of the devil, like we saw in The Witch. It's the evil place. It's the place you don't want to go to, because that's where the magic is. That's where the unknown is. It's not controlled. It's not ordered. In a lot of movies, we see that as dangerous. Horror movies especially. In this case, it's dangerous, but it's actually comfort. That's where you get saved, which we see that as an interesting part of The Witch as well. It's dangerous, but then she goes into it, and there's the witch. So I think that in this case, you see a different aspect of this wild, and a lot of the imagery she puts up, the spider and all these bizarre natural images, are supposed to increase that tension and also show that nature and the connection to it, which is gorgeous. It's new and fresh.
So beautiful. And I don't want anybody to think because I was confused at times I didn't love it. I absolutely loved it, even on my small screen. I loved confused. I loved the fear that I took it to pointed to something in my life. And to your point, Heather, when you were saying how what they always say the forest is people make it evil, to me, whatever the they are, anything that's powerful, they like to tell us is evil. Because it's powerful. It could be evil. It could be
controllable.
It's doable. Even from superstition, like the number 13, breaking a mirror, walking under a ladder. These are all things that are powerful. You can make them what you do. It's energy behind it. And the same with the forest more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an untamed space. It's uncontrollable. So it's scary. So it's bad. It's evil.
I will say, for all of the things that I've said thus far, I loved watching her get comfortable with the forest. Like, I loved the process of her brushing her fingers along the branches, because that's what I do when I'm outside. I touch everything. And so that felt very familiar to me in a way that was comforting. So I really liked watching her open up and be able to do that. And again, I loved the whole, like, when they got there and they said, you're going to be drinking, the water has peat in it, so you're going to be drinking it, like, just get over it because it's going to happen or whatever. And then the mud gets tracked in the house and all this stuff. And like the realization of the ashes of the burned witches being in the land, and like the land remembers, and that was extremely powerful. And I think like that is such a cool concept. And I just would have liked to see something I would have liked that concept just done a little bit differently.
I agree. And also, not only does the land remember, Pepperidge Farms remembers.
You have such a beautiful, interesting brain, Richard-Lael. Little synapses.
Well, you know what? It's so funny for someone who does not really follow pop culture. I know an awful lot about pop culture.
You do way
Way
more
back here in 1890, I know so much about 21st century pop culture.
That's so funny.
than.
Can I
You know
just
what?
actually,
Go ahead.
really quick? Alicia said I would be interested in seeing a slightly longer director's cut of this for clarity purposes, or to see certain things happen for more time. I don't know if I talked about this. Actually, Alicia and I went because we love Midsummer. I love Midsummer, and I saw that it was playing in the theater, and I had never gotten to see it in the theater, so I went and saw it, and it was actually the director's cut. So it was like, I don't know, 30 minutes longer or something like that, and it was like watching an entirely different movie, and it was even better, which is impossible, but even better than the original. I have to say, I agree. Like, that's the only way that I would watch this movie again, if I got to see a director's cut of it, because I feel like that might be different in a good way.
I thought it was just fine at 95 minutes. I didn't think it needed any extra time. I thought it hit every beat that it needed to hit, and it was just beautiful to watch. I could just watch this again just to look at the visuals of the whole thing.
And
It looked like and the music was great too. I noticed that while I was watching. It looked and sounded like nothing we have ever done on this show before. And
I know it. Again, I loved it, and I need to see it on a bigger screen. But the spirits are telling us that we need to hear the Mankey movie minute.
oh no. So I will admit that I wrote this under duress today while screaming at my computer. And I also don't have Jason announcer voice like I would prefer. So we're gonna try. Though, before I do it though, there was a couple of quotes I thought Courtney missed that were funny. What do they call that haircut? Anarchist with a day job.
Oh, yeah.
That was really funny.
That was good.
Yeah.
There's the comedy that
Yeah.
that Amazon picked up on.
Oh, missed it. Sorry.
A millennia of patriarchy dictate what we see. I thought that was a brilliant line,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course I hate children. Was the line. All right, here we go. Here's the minute. She will get revenge. She will play in the mud with charcoal. She will be mean to her nurse, and then she will be nice to her nurse. She will have solitude. She will connect with the witches of the past. Come to the dark and spooky Scottish Highlands and connect with a power that is hundreds of years old. Less a horror movie, but more a meditation on the long overdue Me Too movement and one woman reconciling her present to her stolen past. Enjoy the rare movie where the main protagonist is a woman over the age of 50 who is seriously badass. Finally, the good ones win and step into their power. She will get her revenge, but you will be entertained.
Ooh,
That was a good one.
good one.
That was accurate. That was accurate.
I wrote that while we were all doing our introduction. So
Oh
there
my
you
God.
go.
No wonder you had that face on. I
did.
you had I wasn't paying attention face.
Oh yeah. I was struggling today. I'm sorry.
No, you're writing. You're writing. That's all good.
So I guess what we need to do now, before introductions, before anything, we need to vote on this film. She will. So again, we want everybody out there. We know a lot of you watch this movie. Wands up, wands down. Up. Halfway for Courtney, 4/5 for Richard-Lael. All right. Well, the ups win. Let's see you guys out there. This is pure talent. Wands up. A thumbs up. I guess that's wands up. Wands neutral for concept of pretty. Okay, that's good. Anybody else? Oh, there's more of you out there. I know it. Robert, have you voted yet? Did we lose him? He fell asleep.
Oh, he's there.
Okay. Wands neutral.
Oh,
I see you, Robert.
Robert,
I see
you're
you,
hurting me.
I know.
Yeah.
Neutral. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so again, if you were intrigued or just confused by any of this, I do recommend the movie. Don't watch it on your cell phone at night, hiding under the covers. Get it on a big screen as you can because it's really pretty. Even the leeches or snails. Which were
Yeah.
they?
Both snails, slugs, I think.
I did like that one.
And anything with the Board Queen is worth watching every time. Everything she's in. I let out a happy dance when I saw that she was the star of this film because she is amazing.
There she is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we got through another one. What are we doing next week? I know we've picked it out, but that was hours ago. I can't remember.
It's The Wiz.
The Wiz, of course it is. Because
We have to do a Wizard of Oz type thing around Thanksgiving, according to Jason, because it's a Thanksgiving movie. So we're doing The Wiz.
Woo!
Okay, so everybody watch The Wiz. And Heather's going to do all the music when we do it next week, right?
Yes, and I'm going to see it live in Atlanta at the Fabulous Fox Theater tomorrow. I'm trying to contain my excitement right now. But so I'm going to be seeing it live and then talking about it next week. So
Good. So, all right, everybody watch The Wiz. Now we actually have more time than we usually do now, which is interesting that this one took less time. So what do you guys want to talk about?
Well, we could talk more about Ghost Story because again, I thought it was 1982, but it was Mary Jane said it was 1981, and I'm going to tell you, I was 1 year old in 1981, and that miniseries scared me to death. Not the ghost, not the fact that the old men got plunged into ice. It was the fact that they were buried alive, which was such a Victorian thing to be scared of. But the practical effects of when the ghost is in the high rise and she turns and then her face falls off, it was 1981 and they used a skeleton and then with jello with strings so that when the camera was on it, all of the flesh would fall off. But it was jello.
And is that Alice Kriege? Is that Alice Kriege, that character that? Because I didn't see that movie. Was that her?
She played the ghost. In the story, she's gone to this sort of remote summer place, and it's in this lovely old Victorian. It's about 1925, and there are three suitors who are old stars. I can't remember. I can't remember now who they are, but old stars from the 30s. But they play these old men who are telling these ghost stories. And then it cuts back to 1925 when they were children, when young boys, and they were all after this one girl. And as they're fighting over her, she gets in the middle to try to stop the fight, and she hits her head on the mantle, and they think she's dead. They put her in the back of her car and roll it into the lake. And just as the car is going into the lake, her hand comes up and goes down the glass, and so. Years later, these old men are gathering and they're telling ghost stories. They gather every year, they tell ghost stories. And it starts happening that the first one is coming home and she jumps out of the lake and she scares out of, he's coming over a bridge and she jumps out and scares him and he falls in and drowns. And then the last one I remember, he goes back to the old house and she comes down the stairs in a wedding dress. And when she turns, she has half a rotten face. That's only it's makeup. But then all of the old men are dead. And then it cuts to now it is the present day, 1981. And this once remote little town is now this major major city central with high rises and modern day buildings. And this man who has not connected to them at all, the space was the apartment complex was built on the place where the old house used to stand. And this man is in the shower and he's talking on the phone and he said, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on." And he comes back in the room and he hangs the phone. He comes in the bedroom and he sees this beautiful naked woman from behind, which is the actress Krieg. And he strokes her body. And then when he comes around to her, she looks at him and then her face falls off, which of course it's the practical effects with the gelatin. And then he screams and then he plunges to his death. So again, it ties into this movie because it's much the same way about woman getting revenge on the people who have robbed her of her humanity.
Mhm.
And she's missing body parts. Same
And
thing.
Fred Astaire and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Wow.
What a crazy cast.
That is a crazy cast.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, Courtney, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself so I could blow my nose and I forgot to unmute. I was saying that's exactly the kind of revenge that I want to see. I want to see faces sloughing off and scaring people to death. Great. That's what I wanted.
Note to
Ghost
self,
Story is really
don't
good. You
upset Courtney. Note to self, don't upset Courtney. I'm just putting that down right now. I'm never turning my light off on Courtney ever again on the show.
Really smart, Jason. Good move.
Okay. Well, before we do little introductions, we do want to remind everybody to go to Mystery Control. Mystery Control. So you could have Richard-Lael pillows. You could have Patty's Power Panties. You could have Bro Witch shoes. You could have T-shirts. You could have hoodies. You could have yoga wear. You could have cookie up, down, and sideways. You could have a goat and popcorn. And mysterycontrol.com. And just you, don't tell anybody. Use code Patty for 25% off. We are practically giving it away. You are the best, Courtney. You have Heather's book at hand always. You have Richard's underwear at always. Yes, it is Richard-Lael's underwear. I didn't mean to say Richard. I didn't.
That's okay. It's fine. I forgive you. Not everyone is perfect. Not everyone can be Jason Mankey.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
I never do that.
For the record, I also have a stack of Jason's books. They're just over there out of reach. I think about it every time, but I've already sat down when I think about it.
There's too many of them. There's too many.
Stack, and they're inscripted so beautifully, and I love them. But they're just out of reach. And ADHD, I don't remember until I go to reach for it, and I can't reach it. So
okay, so
I'll work on that.
So let's talk about, again, anything everybody has coming up. We also, even though we're going to see each other before Thanksgiving, does anybody have any good Thanksgiving or People Day or whatever we're calling it now?
I do, and it's very fitting. My Thanksgiving tradition was actually, I agree with Jason that Wizard of Oz is a Thanksgiving movie, because my very best Thanksgiving, the only one I ever remember liked from when I was a kid, was when my mom surprised us and took us to see Wizard of Oz at the theater after dinner. And I love a cinematic adventure. So my son and I, when this happened, when we became our own little family, decided neither one of us likes Thanksgiving dinner. We don't like the obligation of having to sit through a Thanksgiving dinner. So we nixed the Thanksgiving dinner altogether, and our tradition is to go to the movies. And this year, very exciting, it's his first year of watching rated R horror movies, and coming out just in time for Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving, a slasher movie. So we will be going to see that.
That's hysterical.
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, so I'll be cooking a giant meal for my friends. I think we have 4 people coming over, so it'll be 6 of us. Very, very excited. I've already started doing my pre-prep, and I brought up my Christmas dinosaur today and put him on the porch. His name is Reggie, and my Christmas llama, her name is Sparkles. So they're there. I'm ready.
I was getting a holiday envy from you guys on our little chat room, all you guys with your holiday decorations. I just took down my skeleton from Halloween like yesterday.
Well, I'm going to say too, though, that I have all of my Christmas decorations up, which are none because I do not celebrate Xmas.
And I don't put mine up until the weekend after Thanksgiving. I refuse. I like this nice quiet period, and we just finished our Samhain and took down all of that. We like to leave the gourds, the decorative gourds out and all of that, and let that have its time. Sorry, Jason.
The gourds are still up at my house.
That's fine.
They do not come down until after Thanksgiving.
We will fight this until we
but
die.
The lights are outside. The lights are up.
Nope,
the lights
not yet.
Are up.
It's not happening.
I'm going to blow the lid off of both of you. My Christmas tree is still up from last year.
Well, that's a whole nother issue.
A little And
would
my
break me.
skeleton stays out year round as well.
My
it's always
skeletons
around.
often do. I took them down for filming, but I am with you, Heather. It is an orange and brown holiday until Thanksgiving, and then it is a red and green holiday.
Then it's
Whatever you call it.
all bets are off, and I start singing Christmas carols, and I drive everyone crazy. But until then, we're quiet. Now we also cook a big dinner with the family, immediate family. And we also started a new tradition where we have poetry. We have a poetry reading event at the table where everybody either has to write one or bring one, and everybody reads a poem. Whether you write it and I usually write mine. And we read that. It has to be about family or Thanksgiving or something related to the holiday. And so that was really fun. We had to get my dad to stop because he got the mic and was hogging it up. And he read about 3 or 4 poems, some more politically oriented. And so we're like, okay, moving on, next one. but everybody, it was super fun and everybody got a chance. And it was a lovely way to kind of spend the time together. So that's what we do.
I would love Heather Greene to read a poem for your Thanksgiving, and I will start it now. I once knew a man from Nantucket.
And the family is surely to love it.
I think we should all prepare poems for Heather for
I
next
love
week.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
One
that should
poem?
be special show with poems for Heather.
Thanksgiving poems.
We once had a competition in my family. My mother didn't want us to give her anything for Christmas. She wanted us to write a poem. And so she was expecting things filled with love. And what she got instead was my brother wrote an acrostic poem comparing her to various world leaders who were not very nice. And then I wrote a poem to the tune of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas about her horrible dog who was awful. And I used a lot of swear words. So at the end, one of us was supposed to win a gift card, and that was going to be the whole thing. And she almost couldn't give it out because she was so mad that we didn't do what she thought she was going to do. So
if you guys are all nice and like the Wiz next week and give it wands up, I will read my poem. I will read a Thanksgiving poem to you that I wrote.
Okay.
Oh,
it's a deal.
Or at least be gentle on it. Be gentle on it.
All right. We only have a couple minutes left. We sort of did intros already, but again, if you're in the Dallas area, come see me at Miracles of Joy this weekend. In December, I'm going to be back in Texas at the Old Park Hotel doing a very spooky holiday ghost hunt with Natalie, my partner in Paraflix. And then I'm home for the month. Yay. Anybody else have anything anybody wants to come see them at?
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Norma. So, all right. Mystery Control. You guys like us, follow us on social media. We don't know why, but it is an important thing. So Facebook, Instagram, whatever things we do, follow us both as Witches Movie Coven and Mystery Control, what we wear, and each of us individually by our name or something dang close to it. So thank you all very much. And we're not going to cackle for 2 minutes. We got to come up with something else.
I was just going to say earlier, if you don't put your Christmas lights up early, there are no Thanksgiving lights. Nobody puts brown lights up. So,
I mean,
what else do you do, right?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
look at this. I want postcards of this.
That's beautiful.
I want postcards of that.
Yeah. Put that back up.
Put it back.
Yeah,
Put that back up.
There we go.
Look at that
Look
Black
at
Phillip.
him.
What do you look at my Black Phillip? He likes that.
He's so
He's
handsome and evil.
He is.
I love
That's
him.
the happiest Black Phillip I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I love
well,
him a
even
lot.
the Grinch can have a heart that grows 3 sizes in one day.
All right. Okay, we are getting close to it. Not quite yet, though. Anybody else? Anything come up? You guys, holidays? Go.
I
Courtney.
celebrated Christmas a little bit early because I was at Disney last weekend for Mickey's very merry Christmas party. You're welcome.
And
So-
we saw some pictures, and you look like you're an 8-year-old on crack.
Yes, that's an entirely accurate way to describe me on Disney. I did become an annual pass holder, so if anyone can come up with an excuse for me to go back to Disney anytime soon, I'm on the lookout. I'm watching those plane fares like a hawk because I'm ready to go at a moment's notice. My park bag's still packed, ready to go. I love it.
All right. So Disney, witches, covens, forests.
We covered it all.
Counting
Board
the
queens.
Okay, we are there. We are there. We're there. Ones up. We got the ones neutral. We got the goats. We have something to drink, but mine's gone. So it's time for me to go teach a class. So on that note, everybody join us. 1, 2, 3.